where the weather's coming from the sort of southwest. It was reasonably good in that direction too. So every chance of these 16.1 overs being played.
Chris Wright will be finishing his over that he started just before 11:30. Since then we've had a couple of showers and an afternoon downpour and much mopping up by the ground staff.
I was very impressed with the pumps that they use here though at Sophia Gardens. They really have cleared the covers spectacularly well, and I'd like to see them at some other grounds that I can think of, frankly, because they're so much more effective than the blotters.
There was a lot of water on the covers a couple of hours ago, that's for sure. But now we're about to get back underway with Chris Wright finishing his long interrupted over.
Tell you what, I'll do this one ball.
Go on, you might claim a wicket.
for the update for one delivery for BBC Radio Leicester. Right, he's going to be bowling to Zainul Hassan eventually, because umpire Baldwin is exercised about something. No, his left arm is lowered, and Chris Wright, hair flopping, runs in from the Cathedral Road end of the ground looking for a Yorker. Over pitches, on driven, should go the distance, and does. The game is now properly underway, and what a nice way to get underway it was. It was just overdone, just overcooked from Chris Wright. Reached to Al Hassan on the full, and he stepped out and on drove it beautifully for 4.
Thank you, Richard. Eloquently described. Richard will now take a rest. No, actually, he'll pop next door and tell radio listeners all about it. You're listening to BBC Sport Online with Richard Ray, myself, Nick Webb, and Edward Bevan, who will be along in about 20-25 minutes to help us through. So, Salisbury from the River Taff end. Glamorgan 4 without loss, and 17 overs are to be played in all. That's the first of them out of the way. They usually start a little bit before the time they're going to here. 17:30 on the board. 16 overs to bowl, and Salisbury into David Lloyd, who flicks that off his hips and will take a couple of runs down to square leg. And David Lloyd is underway with his first runs for 8 weeks, having suffered a hamstring injury in the second innings of the win over Worcestershire back in May. It's a little bit breezy, which has been good drying conditions, but if you're watching on the video stream, the camera may be just a little bit wobbly. Salisbury bowls, and Lloyd dead bats that down in front of him, and there is no run. So David Lloyd, who is off to Derbyshire next season, has signed a 3-year contract with the Midlands County, having been a one-club man at Glamorgan, North Walian, pointing out that it's nearer his family home. As Salisbury bowls, and Lloyd drives up to mid-off. There's a scrambling stop, and Al Hassan, who would come a metre or two down the wicket, returns to the non-striker's end. Umpire Jack Shantry is the man in charge at that far end, at the River Taff end. And frankly, I'm amazed there are any spectators in the ground at all, but there are. Salisbury in to bowl to Lloyd, who drives back past the bowler, and that will be his first boundary in a couple of months, as he tucked into an over-pitch delivery, and Glamorgan are in double figures, just beating the bowler and beating the skipper at mid-off, Lewis Hill, as well. Slip cordon of 3. Vian Mulder, Colin Ackerman and Louis Kimber. Salisbury in bowls, and he's bowled him. May have been a bit of an inside edge there from David Lloyd, but he's gone. Matt Salisbury strikes in his first over, and Glamorgan are 10 for 1. It looked as though Lloyd might have been trying to take his bat out the way of it or play it defensively. But both bails knocked off, and in fact he didn't play any shot at all. It's come back a bit, and it's a fine delivery from Matt Salisbury. And David Lloyd is gone for 6, and Glamorgan are 10 for 1 after 11 balls. So a misjudgment from Lloyd after best part of a couple of months out.
David Lloyd was
A happy return for him. So it will be, we think, Sam Northeast in at 3. One up from his normal position, because Tom Bevan, who batted 3 in the last match, has been left out, and so has Colin Ingram, because Glamorgan have preferred 2 overseas bowlers. They're only allowed to play 2 out of the 3 that they have on the books at the moment. They probably weren't expecting Michael Neser to play in this game, but he has been released by Australia, and so Neser returns for Glamorgan, you would imagine, possibly just for this one game. Sam Northeast's 371 runs this season at an average of 28.5. Century last time out in the second innings of the drawn match against Sussex, which of course preceded the last 2 T20 games. 10 for 1 as Northeast takes guard. 3 slips, point, cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket and fine leg. Fairly orthodox early field. Faces Northeast as Salisbury is in and bowls, and Northeast is forward. Defensively, cautiously, no run. 10 for 1 at the end of the second over of the innings. If you are just tuning in, we had a 6-hour break in proceedings after the first 5 balls were delivered, and we're due to have a further 15 overs. Good ball from Salisbury, that, Richard?
Looked to be. I obviously haven't seen a replay. I haven't been in the other room, but he left it and it just nipped back a little bit and clipped the top of off stump.
Yep, exactly so.
Chris Wright then from the Cathedral Road end of this fine ground goes running in and bowls to Hassan, who leaves outside off stump stylishly, lifting his bat over the line of the ball in a neat parabola.
Yeah, from initial impressions of Ul Hassan playing his 4th championship match, he's adapted reasonably well so far to the demands of opening. Without a big score, but has looked solid and has taken some of the shine off the new ball.
Bobs at the knees as Wright goes in and bowls to him. Again he leaves outside off stump, slightly shorter of length this time from Wright, and again something rather stylish about the way Hassan brought the bat back inside the line. No parabola, just a sort of curtain rail back inside the line. 3 slips for the Foxes, otherwise a pretty conventional single saving field, with of course the exception of a wide long leg. Callum Parkinson down there. Heard him shouting, "Why not, boys, why not?" after that first wicket fell. In goes Wright and bowls. San again leaves outside off stump, steps forward, lifts his bat over the line of the ball, yet to be required to play in this over from Wright so far. Does look a little disappointed as he walks back towards his mark into the teeth of a fairly strong wind now that's coming from the southwest, where the weather has been coming from over the last couple of days. The moment all set fair. Right, turns, elbows jutting, runs in and bowls outside off stump, thick outside edge along the ground all the way though for Zaib Al Hassan, and he picks up 4 down to 3rd man. It was an outside edge, but he was on top of the bounce, reaching out outside off stump, stepping out to the ball. It possibly was there to drive. It didn't quite get far enough across, but he got plenty on it, and it ran down just wide of Louis Kimber at 3rd slip to to the boundary for 4. He moves on to 8. 2 fours to his name, 14 for 1. Glamorgan.
Making up for lost time in entertainment, aren't we? With 3 boundaries and a wicket and just over 5 minutes.
Right, 31 on his back. Quite a straight one. Goes in and bowls, and again that's going to be 4 down to third man. An entirely deliberately played, I think, shot by Hassan. He reached forward, played defensively with an angled bat, steered it wide of Kimber at third slip, and all Kimber can do is jog back down to the wider third man boundary. He was on top of the bounce. Hassan moves into double figures, on to 12, 18 for 1. The game proceeds apace. Has a bit of time to make up.
Absolutely, especially when you look at all the other matches in the county championship. There's been a considerable amount more play.
Right, 1 ball to go in his second over is in. Bowls straighter this time. Saibul Hassan is forward, slightly closes the bat face on that defensive press, pushes the ball out towards Tom Scriven at mid-on, and that is the end of Wright's over. The 2 boundaries came from it, so he's conceded 12 in 3 shots to Saibul Hassan in those 2 overs. 18 for 1, the Glamorgan score. And we have 14 overs left to be played today.
As far as the women's matches involving these 2 areas are involved, Western Storm were due to be away to Central Sparks in the Rachel Hayo Flint Trophy at Moseley Cricket Club, but that game was abandoned without a ball being bowled. Salisbury in to bowl to North East, who leaves that one outside off stump, and well, it was a more successful leave that David Lloyd enjoyed, but seemed to come back in a little, and certainly Salisbury getting a little bit of movement earlier on.
Could Sam North East not have spent some of the last 2 days blancoing his pads? Look at the state of him.
Yes, there we are. You don't get runs for a clean kit. Salisbury bowls and North East deflects one away on the leg side, but there is no run.
I wonder if they're the lucky pads he wore in scoring 400 plus against Leicestershire last season.
Yeah, this season hasn't been quite the glorious trail blazed of last year. But he's been sort of battling back towards form after quite a shaky start. Salisbury into North East, who is forward, playing back to the bowler, and there is no run. As far as the Blaze are concerned, the side covering the East Midlands, they won by 4 wickets away to Southern Vipers, successfully chasing down a target of 260 for victory there. At the top of his mark, Salisbury is into North East once more, and he drives firmly into the offside, but it's intercepted by Patel at cover, and there is no run. The pitch again is away towards the grandstand side of Sophia Gardens, so that's a bit to our right as we look out from the lofty perch on the 3rd floor in the media centre. The grandstand, though, is not used for championship games, as Salisbury loping in, bowls North East, is beaten there. A little bit of a waft outside off stump, probably didn't need to play it, but was drawn into it, and through it went to keeper Hanscom. That was a wide-ish delivery that stayed wide, and North East probably shouldn't have played that shot. But it's an easy game from up here. 18 for 1 then, Glamorgan, after this lengthy series of delays. Salisbury to North East, who punches that one nicely off the back foot, but again it is stopped this time by a tumbling Rishi Patel in the covers, and we've had our first maiden of the match. Salisbury 2 overs 1 for 6, right 0 for 12, Glamorgan 18 for 1 after 4.
grandstand may be closed during championship games. It does have one resident at the moment, sitting just 3 rows back. Is one Rehan Ahmed sitting there. Was unavailable for this game at the last minute. Basically said his shoulder was too sore, his bowling shoulder, so presumably been getting through a lot of overs in the nets with England. Chris Wright is in and bowls outside off stump to Hassan, who steps forward and leaves, lets it go through to Peter Hanscom behind the stumps. Alongside him, Vian Mulder at first slip, Colin Ackerman at second, Louis Kimber at third, Australian, South African with a Netherlands international qualification, and then an Englishman. Right. In past umpire Baldwin, bowls full and looking to drive, just shaped back into him a touch, I think there. And now Zaibul Hassan is careful, checks the drive, pushes it firmly out towards mid-off. Leicestershire skipper Lewis Hill there. Tom Scriven is at mid-on. Patel in the covers. Parkinson down at long leg, Budinger at square leg. In goes Wright. It's Budinger who's running on to the ball. I beg your pardon, it's Salisbury who's there. Budinger is at backward point on the other side of the wicket.
Yeah, probably worth reminding listeners that we're again using the Kookaburra ball, as principally used in Australia. This is the second of 2 rounds in which this ball will be used, so up to Leicestershire to make good use of it early on.
Right, trying to do that is in, bowls on off stump, forward goes Ul Hassan, defending again. Big stride for a little man, he gets forward in a very determined way. Big press. Pristine pads.
Well, he'll be looking to make sure that his rookie contract, is extended and maybe upgraded for next year.
So this is 7th first-class innings for Glamorgan. As Wright is in, bowls to him, he's driving, he's got it between Budinger and Patel. Patel lopes back and can't get there. I thought he was a favourite to get there all the time, but he's not actually that quick over the ground. Rishi Patel, big strides, but he never really sort of got them going too well there, and the ball, well, an impressive tribute to the resilience of the outfield really, which has been battered by storms today. But it still has a decent amount of pace in it, and it made it all the way. It is the short side of the ground, as Nick was saying, to that boundary rope in front of the grandstand. But it maintained its speed all the way through, and Ul Hassan proceeds in boundaries only. 4 fours for him. All off Chris Wright, who is in and bowls shorter of a length this time. Zaibul Hassan goes back and just drops it carefully out. Again into the offside. Patel walks forward and picks it up, and it's the end of the 5th over of Glamorgan's first innings, and indeed of the match. They are 22 for 1. The man out, David Lloyd, bowled by Matt Salisbury for 6.
So the shadows of the floodlight pylons spreading across Sophia Gardens. Nice to have some sunshine to report after a pretty heavy downpour early afternoon that looked as though it could have wiped out the rest of play. Salisbury is in to bowl to northeast, to driving to mid-off, but no run. Yet to get off the mark, Sam northeast. He's timed a couple sweetly, but has hit them straight to fielders.
Yeah, 13 innings, 371 runs, 28 average.
Yeah, it's certainly not as good as his high standards of last season, but he's heading in the right direction generally, as he is forward, defending that one back down the pitch to the bowler. Similar story really in the T20, that he started very scratchily but eventually got going, albeit as not such a high strike rate as most of his fellow batters. 22 for 1 then, Glamorgan. 6th over. Another 11 to follow after this. North East is forward, playing to mid-on, and there is no run. And again, you can just sense that the ball doesn't come as hard off the bat as it does with the new Duke.
Just watching North East there, partly obviously through the window, but also on the screen. Brilliant cameras here, by the way, at Sophia Gardens. And I don't appreciate if you're watching on the stream, but he is waiting for it. It is time. He has a lot of time.
Salisbury bowls. North East comes forward and defends to Patel at cover. No run.
Speed sort of 7. There's a speed gun here as well. Another excellent facility. 76s for Matt Salisbury. He's running into the strong wind. That said,
watched by a small clutch of a dozen or 15 supporters directly behind him as he comes in from the River Taff end and bowls to North East, who is again playing that fairly straight and gently and defensively. He's faced 12 balls then without getting off the mark, and being an experienced sort of chap, he no doubt be happy with living to fight another day, even if his score is modest at the end of proceedings today. In comes Salisbury, and forward goes North East and defends back to the bowler. So tight stuff from Matt Salisbury, his second maiden that he's bowled to Sam North East, and he has 2 for 6 off 3. 1 for 6 off 3. Apologies. Right, 0 for 16 at to the run, 22 for 1 after 6.
Yeah, this is Matt Salisbury's just third first class appearance for Leicestershire. Played in the first game, the win at Headingley against Yorkshire, but got injured in that game. Was out for a best part of 2 months. Came back during the T20s. So he'll be just anxious for a run, really. In goes right and bowls. Good delivery on off stump, forward. Benzeb Ul Hassan, very solidly, everything behind it. Again playing out into the offside. Right bowling markedly more quickly than Salisbury, touching 82 mph. The Sussex bound Chris Wright at the end of this season. Kept himself superbly fit. He's 38 on Friday. We worked out, in he goes and bowls, beautiful delivery, and that does beat Saib Ul Hassan. He wasn't sure whether to go forward or back. He ended up just about on the back foot, but he did proffer a bat at that one as it went past his sort of hip and went past his outside edge without flicking it. Nicely bowled from Chris Wright.
Yep, fledgling opener Zain Ul Hassan went through the Worcestershire Academy and a whole series of second 11s over the last couple of years. South Asian Cricket Academy supported him and won a 1-year deal here.
Waits with bat raised as Wright goes in, bowls to him, and again he's solidly forward, laying it watchfully out into the offside. Patel fields, no run.
He's born in Pakistan but grew up in the Midlands, and very much appreciating his opportunity to try and forge a first-class career.
Wind ruffles his shirt as he awaits the arrival at the crease of Wright, who bowls to him. He goes back, and the way he plays that implies it just stayed a little bit lower than he thought it was going to. Have a look at perhaps the replay. He was solidly enough behind it, playing it out into the offside, but he just bobbed a little at the knees as he played it. He's not a tall man, left-handed of course, and he's been reply that it didn't quite get up in the way that he thought it was going to.
Looks like quite a soft surface from the marks that are rising from the bowler's run-ups already.
Does a touch. Plenty of green on it as right goes in bowls, and that one behaves relatively normally. And it is defended off the back foot by Ul Hassan out into the offside. But a little bit like the pitches at Grace Road, they can look slightly strange, mottled almost, and it looks as though there's plenty of grass on it, but it's playing perfectly steadily, indeed slightly slowly. Heavy roller's been on it a few times over the last day or two. Motorised roller anyway. In goes right and bowls, turned off his legs by Ul Hassan. The first scoring shot he's played that hasn't gone 4-4. Runs it down to Parkinson. Jogs a single, keeps the strike. So Sam North East will remain on 0. Saib Ul Hassan on 17. Glamorgan 23 for 1. After 7 overs, just 10 remain to be bowled today. Odds are we'll get an over or two of spin, I would imagine, but just, you never know.
Should we invite Mr. Bevan to the microphone, and you've got another update to do, and I'll retreat at about 1:15 or thereabouts, as I believe I might even have a radio update myself as well. All things being equal. 23 for 1, as Edward Bevan will be joining me fairly shortly. Right, mostly around 81 miles an hour. Salisbury then from the River Taff end bowls to Ul Hassan, who stretches the right leg forward and then plays no shot. 23 for 1. Tricky little period this for Glamorgan, Edward.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Coming in here just 16 overs and 1 ball. We talked a few minutes ago about Ul Hassan. I've been quite impressed by him because he looks particularly strong through the offside, good technique, a couple of 40s in the handful of games he's played, and I think perhaps in the absence of Lloyd from now on.
And Salisbury bowls, and forward comes Ul Hassan. Yes, there's at least one vacancy at the top of the Glamorgan order.
Yeah, so David Lloyd sadly leaving Glamorgan at the end of the season, joining Derbyshire, of course, in a 3-year contract. I think Ul Hassan might well hold down the opener's position for next season. 4 boundaries in this innings so far.
And is Salisbury bowls to Ul Hassan, who's driving to mid-on, and there's no run. Just getting the feeling, Edward, that as we witnessed in the last match against Sussex, the ball is not coming onto the bat.
No, there was one beautiful shot from Ul Hassan off right in the opening, the first ball of the day, where he hit straight for 4. But as you say, he did have a 4 through extra cover off right again, but that just barely trickled over the boundary rope.
Salisbury to Ul Hassan, who is playing forward defensively to mid-on.
What I like about him, I'm going back years now, and he's now the chief executive here, Hugh Morris, who got lots and lots of runs for Glamorgan. He used to go right forward or right back, nullify any chance of movement, and Hassan does that admirably. I hope I haven't put the kiss of death on him, but yeah, I like the way that he's shaping up, and good luck to him.
Next delivery from Salisbury is just steered down towards gully by Ul Hassan. It's fielded by Budinger in a gully stroke backward point position. I'm surprised he's not catching, actually. Rather, he's back saving the single virtually at backward point rather than gully.
They will learn, because in the last match against Sussex, the fielders were coming in closer and closer on either side. But this Cooker ball, I'll be glad to see the back of it, I think.
Certainly the first experiment round was not great for Glamorgan, as that is a leave by Ul Hassan outside off stump. End of the over, and Salisbury delivers yet another maiden. 4 overs, 3 maidens, 1 for 6. Glamorgan 23 for 1 after 8 of the 17 overs that are due to be delivered today. That must be one of the longest waits we've had between spells of play from 11:30 to 5:30.
Don't want a couple of days like that again, Nick.
That's not fun, is it?
Awful. Going back to Salisbury, remember him starting his career with Chelmsford boys, starting with Essex.
Hampshire and Durham since then.
Yeah, he's been round the island. We've got a change of bowling already. Chris Wright has come off, and he has been replaced by Scribbins, who impressed me up at Leicester earlier on in the season.
Yeah, he took 3 for 61 against Glamorgan at Grace Road. Chris Wright was the main wicket taker there with 5 for 89, albeit Glamorgan piled up 465 all out.
Yeah, it's a good wicket, too good for the bowlers up there. And he'll be bowling Scrimmins from this end, the Cathedral Road end, and he'll be bowling to the right-hand northeast, yet to score. He bowls the first ball to him, and northeast covers up and pushes it away onto the offside. Long wait today. Clay didn't get underway until 5:30, and seeing the ball going for these boundaries, where we had five or six boundaries already, and so you did mention I can't see much of the bowlers run up, but they did wait rather a long time before get going. Scrimmins bowls, and northeast gets one just back of a length and pushes it up to mid-off. Yes, he'll do well to get a result over this game, unless there is a chat between the captains, which I doubt, because Leicestershire are second and Glamorgan are behind them. The annoying thing is, Nick, that all of England have played for 2 days basically.
Yeah, we've been exceptionally unlucky here this week.
Scribbins in past the umpire, bowls again, and that's a nice looking shot, but straight to cover. Here we go again, hit beautifully, and then goes very slowly up to cover. So we can say thanks very much for the experiment, but not again. ECB, if you don't mind. Let's go back to the Duke's balls. 23 for 1 Glamorgan. They've lost David Lloyd, bowled, padding up to Salisbury for 6. Well, Hassan is on 17. And Sam Northeast, yes, looking for his first run. Does he get it now? No, he doesn't. Hits the top of the pad, and bowler himself fields. I think light showers tomorrow, interspersed with sunny periods. Make of that what you will.
Who knows?
We'll be here. Thursday seems a good day, the last day.
Yeah, so there's something in it other than the battle for bonus points, but that would probably require a couple of poor batting performances in the first innings from these two teams.
Scriven in. Bowls again. Again, he tries to work it away down to fine leg, but it hits him on the pad, and he's still hasn't got off the mark. What he faced here,
18.
Northeast, 18 balls.
Yeah, he didn't seem to know where that one had landed up, really. He's looking around for it as it bounced gently down towards Silly Point.
He's had a few good innings this season, but interspersed with low scores. Hasn't been the best by a long way of his 2 seasons when he set the world alight last year. Last ball of the over. Scriven in, bowls off the back foot, and he gets a boundary between second and third slip. Not the way perhaps he'd like to have got his opening runs, but he gets 4 of them. And the score now has moved on to 27 for 1. Northeast off the mark with 4, while Hassan is on 17. Chris Wright now, he's been taken off, as Richard was saying. He's off down the south coast at Sussex next year. His 5th county, and I'm just trying to count. I can't think of. I can name you quite a lot of 4 counties, but players, but not a 5th county. I'd probably be proven wrong.
Among English players, I mean, because they've been quite, I think,
Marcus
North, yes, is a prime example. Former Glamorgan, and many others.
I'll have a think about that. I'm sure some listeners might have the answer. Send your emails in to Nick,
Or tweets, probably.
or tweets rather, or whatever you want to do.
Here's Salisbury continuing from the River Taff end. Hasn't conceded a run since his first over, and that's edged and it hasn't carried to slip by Ul Hassan. Dropped short, and there is the lesson really, that slips have to be in close, and as Edward said, we saw them creeping forward during the last match here against Sussex. Maybe Leicestershire won't have seen much footage of that, but they'll have played their own game with the Duke's ball, the Kookaburra ball, and slips have to be in close attendance because otherwise it doesn't carry. 27 for 1. Salisbury to Ul Hassan, who will get a single down to fine leg. 28 for 1 in the 10th over out of the 17 being bowled today. We hopefully we'll get an update on BBC Radio Wales in a minute or two.
Yeah, David Lloyd, who was dismissed for 6, misjudged the line of the ball, padded up and had his off stump knocked back. Hasn't played for 8 weeks, so that surely did and must have affected him.
Next delivery from Salisbury is played confidently off the back foot through the offside by North East. A stylish second boundary after an edgy first, and Glamorgan move on to 32 for 1.
Back to David Lloyd, I must say how disappointed I am, and lots of people. You know, captain going to Derbyshire, Welsh boy, played all his cricket here, and great lad, good cricketer. A great disappointment, I'm sure, to many Welsh followers.
North East facing up then to Salisbury again. Just North East taking a moment to settle, maybe a fielder or two moving round. Salisbury into North East, plays defensively to point, and there is no run. Glamorgan are 32 for 1. We're in the 10th over of the 17 to be bowled today, and we had a 6-hour gap between some action at 11:30 for a couple of minutes and the resumption at 5:30. Glamorgan have lost captain David Lloyd, back in action after an 8-week injury, bowled by Salisbury for 6, playing no shot to his 5th ball. Zain Ul Hassan is on 18 not out, Sam North East is on 8 not out, and Glamorgan are 32 for 1 with 7 overs left today. Dot ball as Salisbury conceding runs in this over after 3 maidens on the bounce, and Glamorgan will be happy if they get through to stumps tonight with just 1 down. I would have thought that night watchman Van der Hoogten would probably be padded up in case another one falls. North East faces Salisbury, who is pushing forward, back up past the umpire. There is no run. 32 for 1. Ul Hassan has 18. North East has 8. And probably time for me to go and do a bit of writing, and Edward can discuss the vagaries of the Kookaburra ball with Richard Ray to find out if he was similarly unimpressed with it in the first round of matches. BBC Sport Online bringing you all the action from Sophia Gardens, and once Edward has sorted out his sitting on his headphones, try not to break them. I've wrecked a pair or two of headphones in my time standing on them, etc, etc. 32 for 1. Scriven then to bowl to Ul Hassan, 18 not out, 3 slips, 5 saving the single, and just the 1 out at fine leg. Scriven bowls, and that is an attempted leg glance by Ul Hassan. I think it's come off his pad. They've taken a single down to fine leg. Richard Ray is back with us, and Edward Bevan will be here very, very shortly.
33 for 1. And Glamorgan restoring a little bit of equilibrium to proceedings after that early loss of Lloyd, just misjudging one that nipped back a touch from Salisbury. Disappointing for him. It's all settled down. It was all a bit frantic for a couple of overs. Tom Scriven from the Cathedral Road end is in, bowls to Sam North East on his legs, and the appeal for leg before, he got an awful lot of bat on it. The question was, did it just clip the pad first? Well, either way, umpire Baldwin isn't interested in the appeal. It doesn't signal, so it was bat before pads as it trickled down towards long leg. North East takes 1, moves on to 9.
Yeah, we were just discussing, Richard, about the last game when cover, extra cover, all the bats, all the fielders were coming in because the ball was not coming on. Wonder if you experienced that in your game.
Yes, to a certain extent, as Scriven goes round the wicket to the left-handed Hassan, who defends on the back foot with an angle bat, dropping it down towards Kimber at third slip, and again, there's no run. Talking to the bowlers after that game, they all felt it was, after about 20-25 overs, said it was like bowling with the white ball, really. There was minimal seam left on it. Said it stayed very, very round, but it didn't do very much, essentially, thereafter, which, of course, is the point. Apparently, that's how our bowlers are going to learn how to take wickets under all circumstances as Scriven bowls around the wicket. Hassan steps forward, lets it go through to Hanscom outside the off stump, and again, there's no run.
Yeah, I think the majority of opinion is, well, thank you very much, but we'll go back to the Dukes.
It has to be a reasonably equal contest, doesn't it?
Yes, of course it has.
You would have thought. It seems a quite a distant step.
And towards the end of the game, when Glamorgan just needed the 1 wicket, which they failed to take in 16 overs.
Scriven sort of scampers in, bowls short down the leg side, pulled in the air. Parkinson didn't see it for a few moments and wasn't quite sure. Eventually picked up the flight of the ball. It actually landed quite a long way in front of him, maybe 10 yards or so, bounced a couple of times, but just for a panicky second he didn't know where it was and was hopping from one foot to t'other. Well, Hassan picks up 1, moves on to 19. The idea being that it will help prepare England's bowlers for the next tour of Australia in sort of 2.5 years' time, or however long it is. But it's an awful.
Don't see many England bowlers playing county cricket.
Well, exactly that. Scriven is in, bowls full, looking for a little bit of swing. There isn't really any. North East strokes rather than drives it out to mid-off, and there is no run to finish the 11th over. 35 for 1. Saibul Hassan has 19 and Sam North East 9.
Quick word about the strange rules of county cricket. Here we are, having been starved of cricket for nearly 2 days, Richard. It's the best part of 2 days. We've got plenty of blue sky, sunshine. We know that it stays light. You're not going to play cricket at 9 o'clock, but it stays light this time of the year. Why not play until 7:15, possibly 7:30? They're not tired. They haven't played much cricket, and it's just a case of advancing the game. But no, it's only so much you can, and finish at 6:15.
I'm not. Yes, indeed. I don't know
I
when
can't
the
work it out.
6 rule was introduced. It's fairly recent, because I know for a fact I've certainly played later than that at Grace Road.
Salisbury starts a new over, clipped away for 4 runs nicely by Al Hassan onto the mid-wicket boundary, timed it nicely, and I just mentioned to Nick how I think this young player has got promise. He's strong through the offside, and he's clipped that 4. He moves on to 23, and I just think it's just a waste. Spectators, players, we've had enough rain to last us 2 weeks, the last 2 days, and just for goodness sake, play on. At least 7 o'clock.
A few Leicestershire supporters of your opinion, Eddie.
Well, yeah, I feel so sorry for them.
Saying, why on earth can't we play till 7?
Yes. In comes Salisbury again, bowls, and this is played through to the offside. It's played to cover, it's fielded, and there is no run. There are other things which I won't go into, but it just you want more people to come on county cricket. But if pal of mine rang, he said, how much play are you going to get? I said, just over an hour. Oh, I shan't bother then, I'll watch it on the stream. And I just wonder, in the old days, the 3-day matches, I wonder if the all amateur captains would have had a chat together. I'm sure they would, and conjured up something. But those days have gone, I think. In comes the next ball, and that's driven firmly, but it's very well fielded there at mid-off. Who was that fielding there?
It's Lewis Hill.
Lewis Hill.
Captain, who seems to have
By example.
hurt himself a bit.
Yeah. He
Don't
dived
quite know
across.
what he did there. He seems okay.
Diminutive young man, and captains, Richard said, was wicket keeper. Remember him keeping wicket for a long time, but now he's captain. He's gone into the outfield, talked to the bowlers. Salisbury's halfway through his over, 39 for 1. He was full start. Bowls and played nicely through the offside this time, and it does beat the man at cover, and it's a chase for Hill. They think of a second, but he moved very quickly through towards the extra cover boundary, did Hill. Loses his cap, but saved a run certainly. And the score moves on to 40 for the loss of Lloyd's wicket.
Yeah, he covers an awful lot more ground than he used to, Lewis, out in the outfield, especially at mid-off or mid-on.
So hopefully we'll get more cricket in the next 2 days, but you never know with this inclement weather. In comes Salisbury to the right-handed northeast, and he drives pleasantly and gets 4 runs past the bowler. Lovely shot, well timed, and that just raced across, and it's not very wet here. We've had about 7 boundaries, and you wouldn't say that the game didn't start till 5:30.
No, the outfield looks beautiful, actually,
Yeah.
even from up here, when you can often see from high above any blemishes, but looks in super condition. Fairly raced away.
44 for 1, and northeast after a slowish start has moved on to 13. Well, Hassan is on 24. So Morgan making this confident start. Here's Salisbury again. Comes over the wicket and bowls to northeast and hits him on the pad. There's appeal for LBW, not out, says umpire Chantry. A big appeal from everybody behind and the bowler. Let's have a little look at this and give our decision.
Going down, perhaps?
Yeah, it wasn't a bad shout though.
No, not at
I
all.
can see why they appealed together. 44 for 1 after 12. Sadly, we've only got 5 overs left. And Richard Ray is alongside me. And go to bed tonight, keep your fingers crossed, say a prayer, and let's hope we get a full day tomorrow.
I think the forecast has improved slightly. It didn't look great at the forecast for tomorrow this morning. Now it looks a little improved. So who knows? Fingers crossed anyway. Tom Scriven trying to pick up another wicket for Leicestershire before the close. Goes round the wicket, bowls down the leg side to Saibul Hassan, who gestures at the ball really rather than tries to play it away down to fine leg. And it is taken by Peter Hanscom, moving obviously to his right behind the stumps.
Yes, Lewis Hill put Glamorgan in, and I think David Lloyd would have done the same, because yesterday was a humid morning and they've been under the covers for a while, but it's not showing any signs of helping the seamers as yet.
Scriven is in and bowls on off stump. Ul Hassan plays it defensively off the back foot with an angle bat wide of point and between he and third slip. It's Budinger who runs back towards the River Taff.
And the vacant third man boundary.
Indeed, and picks up around 10 yards inside that third man boundary.
Which was very close to going through the fourth boundary that had gone down there.
And Ul Hassan picks up 2. He moves
Even
on to
you know me.
26. 46 for 1.
You know what I'm trying to get at.
I absolutely do. And Kimber has gone slightly wider to a sort of fourth slip gully as, again, round the wicket goes Tom Scriven. No real movement for him, though. He usually does swing it, but the ball hasn't really swung this evening. Chris Wright sometimes gets it to move as well, but is it the kookaburra? Is it the conditions?
There's plenty of wind. The flag, there's 2 flags, and they're blowing quite just differently, and the trees are swaying just a little, so it must be helping someone.
Scriven is in down the leg side, takes his bottom hand off the bat. Al Hussein then has to hurry back in there. And he was a little dilatory in doing so.
He was.
He took a couple of steps down the wicket. Sam North East sent him back, and he didn't really sort of hurry back. The throw came in over the stumps, and Hanscom had it hit. I think there would have been an appeal there. Salisbury was quite quickly on to the ball.
North East goes down and says, "No, hang on, young man, you've got 26. Just,
Don't give it away before the close. You've got a job to do." That would have been an awful sort of kind of dismissal as well.
Calamity.
Like that. When you're playing for your future in the game, in goes Scriven, bowls, fullish this time. Again, it's a little bit sort of too straight really on towards Midland leg, and he's looking to on drive. Zaibul Hassan checks the shot rather and looks at the bottom of his bat. Checks that that's alright because it didn't come off the middle and it rolled fairly gently out to Chris Wright at mid-on.
Glamorgan going at nearly 3.6 and over, which they'd be quite happy with.
Yeah, I think if you'd offered them sort of 60 for 1 probably at the close, they would have said, yeah, that's okay. Scriven is in. Hussain defends firmly. And
timed that well.
Yeah, he did. And Salisbury had to scramble rather to his right. He's at a sort of straight-ish mid-wicket, trying to cover both mid-wicket and square leg, and had to move smartly to his right to make sure Zaibul Hassan didn't pinch a single, and with it the strike. 4 overs remain, 13 have been bowled. Glamorgan 46 for 1 as the late afternoon stroke early evening sun comes out again at Sophia Gardens. Everything looks wonderfully green.
It does, doesn't it?
At the moment.
Lovely. Chris Wright has swapped ends. He opened up this end, bowled 4 overs for 17 runs, and after Salisbury had bowled pretty well at the start, he's going to be relieved now by Wright, who goes to the River Taff end, and he will be bowling to North East. Let me give you the feel. 3 slips, and then there's a cover, an extra cover in a mid-off, a mid-on, a long leg, straightish mid-wicket. As Wright comes in, wide of the off-stump, and North East has nothing at all to do with it, and lets it go through to the wicket-keeper. This ground, of course, is an excellent drying ground, and we didn't see any pools as such. We saw some pools on the covers, but not on the ground.
So impressed with the work of the pumps as well.
Yes. They've got everything here, every facility. Here's Wright over the wicket, bowls down the leg side, and North East pulls his back away because we've seen so many batsmen get throttled down that leg side. 2 umpires, Paul Baldwin, no experience in county cricket, and Jack Shantry. Remember him, bowling off the wrong foot for Worcestershire for years?
Absolutely. I think he's one of the best young...
yeah, so I haven't seen much of him, but take your word, certainly. He stands, and a difference in size, which I'll describe you, between the 2 umpires. As in comes Wright and bowls, that's wide of the off stump in the left. I would say Shantry's about 6'4", and I would say that Paul Baldwin's about 5'8".
Yeah, and the difference in height sort of emphasises that fact, doesn't it? So he looks about 5'5", and Shantry looks about sort of 6'8".
But Paul is the senior umpire, of course. He does all the decisions at the start, at the toss, and with the groundsman. And
lives in Wales, you're telling me.
He lives in Lampeter, which is... I'll tell you how far that is now. Here's the next ball, straighter ball, played defensively, back down the pitch as a shaft of sun comes across, and it's all sunshine, ironically, here.
I wonder why he chose Is he married to a Lampeter
no,
lady,
I'll
or
tell you
does
the
he love
story
it?
now.
Is it a beautiful place, or?
It is a nice place. I live about 50 minutes away down the Swansea area, and Lampeter is another hour and a half. So you'd call this a home game for Paul Baldwin, but obviously he's got to stay up. And I'll tell you the reason that he moved on. He was telling me last season, as in he comes a bowl, clipped away but straight to mid-wicket. His wife is very fond of horses, and they went down there to have a look, and there's plenty of open spaces, and they bought this place where they could have a couple of horses and just enjoyed everything, and they love it down there, even though he must drive a few miles in the summer. it's easy for him to get to Old Trafford than I think to get here, because he's going up the coast there, he was saying. But no, I was asking the other day when I met him. Yes, loving it down there. Chris Wright bowls. This is played down the pitch. There is no run. End of the over. Useful over there from Chris Wright, changing ends. And we have just 3 overs remaining on this very sunny evening, says he, ironically.
The first of those 3 will be bowled by Leicestershire's young all-rounder, signed from Hampshire a couple of years ago, Tom Scriven.
Impressed me up at Leicester, I must say.
He's established himself just about in the first team, both forms, red ball and white ball. He usually swings the ball at a reasonably lively pace.
Nice action, nice approach.
And prefer to see him bowling over the wicket to the left-handers. In he goes and does that to Saibul Hussain, outside of stump, just shapes back in a touch, but wide enough for Hassan to leave safely, and he does. Conscious, I'm sure, now of the proximity of the close.
Yeah, we talk about players leaving Leicestershire, David Lloyd leaving Glamorgan, and a blow to Worcestershire, Pennington and
Tongue, yeah.
Josh Tongue.
In goes Scriven, outside off stump, again that shape, but again just starts too wide, and another safe leave.
And who would have said, Richard, 2 years ago, that Rushworth rather, from Durham would be leaving, because he's very much a home boy, and he's successful at Warwickshire, but anybody who seems to be one of the best players in the side, they get offered to go and play First Division. Can't blame them, of course.
Scriven is in. Fuller this time, clipped away off the stumps by Saibul Hussain, but got plenty of it down towards deep backward square. Parkinson scampers around the rope down there, picks up right-handed, throws in left-handed. It's a long throw for him, taken in front of the stumps by Peter Hanscom. Hussain just pick up 2 in the end.
Poor running.
I would have backed them to pick up 3 there, but
Poor running.
they decided not to risk the 3rd.
Mark Taylor, the former Australian captain, described the running between the wickets by Australia in the last test as appalling.
Scriven is in, bowls outside off stump.
You think how they scramble in one-day cricket and make 3s into 2s and 2s into 1s, and in this form of cricket, a lot of them just amble.
That would have been 3 every time in
If you were batting.
in white ball cricket.
If you and I were in there, we'd have been easy 3. Yes.
Yes. Well, a few years ago, perhaps.
Perhaps some.
I'd have
I'd drop
2.
halfway.
Yeah. I think I would have taken 2 in the circumstances. Scriven is in to Ulsan again.
Shot.
He's clipping through the leg side, this time in front of mid-wicket, and he's timed that one rather better, and it is just a chase back to the boundary for Matt Salisbury. Nice shot, nice timing from Saibul Hussain, who looks in good touch out there. He's moved on to 32 already, and he's brought up the Glamorgan 50. 52 for 1, 2.1 overs remain to be bowled today.
He's been around the counties, I had Nick telling you, and I hope now that he gets a contract here, because he's done his job. He's not an opening batsman. He's been pressed into it. A couple of 40s, 30, a couple of 20s, and got to applaud him. And he looks a nice, compact player.
He waits, bat raised as Scriven is in, outside off stump. He literally hops across his stumps there and lets it go out through outside off stump. End of Scriven's over, a not particularly threatening one from Glamorgan's point of view. None for 14 for Tom Scriven. Saibul Hussain has 32, Sam North East 13.
Bit of spin, perhaps? No.
Just thought they might have one over before the close, just to see if there's anything in the pitch.
I doubt
Callum
it.
Parkinson's sort of looking back, hopefully over his shoulder. Oh, well, he's
I think he'll have the last over, you know.
He's windmilling his arms. It's a tradition, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah, I'm still here, Captain. Yeah. But it's Chris Wright from the River Taff end, and he's coming in past umpire Chantry on his way, and bowls, and this is clipped away on the onside by North East. They cross for 1, and they would have made 2, but perhaps not risking it in the penultimate over. As Richard goes off to tell the folk of Leicester what's going on, BBC Leicester Nick comes back alongside me, or will in just a moment. And 53 for 1. Glamorgan would have been quite happy, Nick, with this score.
I think they've been happy with around about this, or alternatively 20 for no wicket.
Right, coming round the wicket now to the left-handed Ul Hussain, bowls to him and he's forward correctly, gets right forward again and gets that right foot right to the pitch of the ball, meets it and plays it confidently away onto the offside. So he's on 32, North Eastern 14. These two came together after David Lloyd was out, and he was out for just 6. So they've put on 43 so far for the second wicket. That's Chris Wright bowling round the wicket. Not for 18 at the moment from 5 overs and 2 balls. Coming round the wicket again, bowls Ul Hussain, and he leaves, judges it well, and it scurries through to the wicket keeper.
Yes, after David Lloyd's dismissal, playing no shot. Have a few qualms maybe about the batters playing no shot.
I think it's only once he's been beaten since he's been at the crease. I'm rather bullying him that, but I hope that doesn't bring him bad luck. But there we are. I still think, and you do, that he's a promising young player for the future.
Yeah, very much the red ball opener, isn't he, at the moment?
Right, in bowls. This is defended away onto the offside. There's no run. Which
is a sort of rare breed these days in county cricket, isn't it? The specialist championship opener, because you make a lot more money in cricket boshing and bashing the ball around.
Oh, undoubtedly, but what do you want to do, you know? You see now, looking at the Somerset side, no Banton, no Smead, they won't play any county cricket, but they'll be off somewhere to play in one of these competitions. I think there's one starting next week in Australia, or this week. America, rather.
Yeah, have bat will travel.
Absolutely. Chris Wright, round the wicket, bowls, and again the batsman, Hussain, comes right forward, undefeated on 32, 53 for 1. And we have 7 balls, very legitimate balls, of course, to be bowled this evening.
I wonder if Tim van der Hoogten has got his pads on as night watchman. Yeah, he enjoys the role.
Well, he doesn't enjoy seeing Glamorgan lose a wicket, but if he's got to do it, he'll be happy to. This will be the last ball from Mr. Wright tonight, and he can go back and have a rest in the hotel.
Unless he takes a wicket, Van der Hoogten can take his pads off again.
And he comes and bowls, and that's pushed away. Mr. Van der Hoogten can go into his shower if he wants to, because the wicket, as we well know, falls in the last over of the day. They will trudge off. 53 for 1 then, and Ul Hussain is on 32. North East, who will face the last over, is on 14, and we are going to have, as we thought,
the token over of spin.
Token over. Alan Parkinson will come and bowl spin from this end.
So we'll see whether he can magic something up and make it Leicester's session. I think, as Edward said, Glamorgan would have been reasonably happy with 53 for 1, 53 for 2. You'd
so
probably say it was just about the Foxes' session. As Parkinson winds a little bit, tosses a delivery to his skipper, Hill at mid-off. And he will prepare to bowl to Sam Northeast with one slip. Comes in, bowls, and outside off stump going further away. It's quite an aggressive run, isn't it, from Parkinson? I'd forgotten how quickly he runs in.
54 miles an hour only, though.
Well, the left arm spinner, and that's cut away by Northeast, and it's well fielded at point. And there's no run. 53 for 1 in the Sophia Gardens sunshine, having sat here under cloudy skies for hours and hours on end. We now see the players departing for the pavilion.
The rules of cricket bemuse me as long as I've been doing this job.
When the sun's out, yeah. Parkinson bowls, Northeast stretches forward, defends off the inside part of the bat to short mid-wicket, and there's no run. A reminder that we will be back. Well, we'll be here at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Hopefully we'll be talking about some cricket happening, but there might be a bit more rain around in the morning in Cardiff. Parkinson bowls, Northeast back on his stumps, punches it out towards the sweeper at cover point, and they amble through for a single, little unambitious, I think, having a sweeper in the last over of the day. As Ul Hassan takes guard, or asks for guard from Paul Baldwin, who wasn't expecting that. Maybe just taking a slightly different guard to the left armour, who is coming over the wicket, having bowled round to the right-hander.
Parkinson on his way again. Another player next year, isn't he?
He is northward bound to Durham, as that's down leg side, and well, the sun stretches forward and somehow the ball just dribbles down to short fine leg, and there's no run. 54 for 1 then. Last ball of the day's play here on BBC Sport Online. David Lloyd bowls by Matt Salisbury for 6. As Parkinson bowls, and a neat piece of keeping from Peter Hanscom, nicks the bails off as the ball goes down leg side. But his appeal is in vain, and Glamorgan close the day on 54 for 1. Ul Hassan 32, Northeast is on 15, David Lloyd out for 6, Salisbury the only wicket taker, and Edward Richard and myself will be back, hopefully, with some cricket commentary for you on day 3 of Glamorgan against Leicestershire from 11 o'clock tomorrow. No star.
And safe departure from the stadium. A reminder that play will be resuming at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. We look forward to seeing you then. If you can't be with us, we hope you have a safe onward journey. Once again, thanks for your support. Good evening. Not so far.